G'day there guys, it's Connie here again, coming at you with some more Reddit stories, so sit back, relax and enjoy. Cheers guys. Okie dokie, we're on the Am I the A-hole subreddit today. This one was written by user Odd Dot, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for not wanting to raise my non-binary daughter's baby? My daughter came to me at 16 and said she was non-binary, but only sometimes. Like some days she would feel more male than female, and some days she would feel like neither. She wanted me to ask her every day what day it was, and then refer to her as that pronoun of the day. I told her that wasn't going to fly. Growing up, I spent a lot of time on LJ, Live Journal, during the old Bun Self and Zen Self, Zer Self days. People who think this is new to this generation are fooling themselves. I told her that I would call her the pronoun she wanted and do my best to remember it day to day, but she was going to have to tell me what she wanted for that day. I wasn't going to play a daily guessing game. This went on for about a week or two until she finally seemed to grow tired or bored and just said I could call her her, though she still identifies as non-binary. Fine. At least when it was going on she wanted she, he or they. I'm sorry, but I couldn't have done with fox self or fox them with a straight face. So that's the pronoun story, and looking back where I think things started to go off the handle, here's my real question. My daughter is now 18, pregnant, and seems to have lost her goddamn mind. Or I'm an a-hole, you choose. This year has been a struggle. She wanted to take a break year before she goes to community college, but can't keep a job. Apparently retail situations are too phobic against her non-binary state. My child looks, acts and dresses exactly as a young adult female, by the way. When I ask how people are being phobic against her, she gets as prickly as a cactus, so I really don't know the details. She's been through 4 or 5 jobs this year, quit all of them. She won't consider call centres that aren't face-to-face because she doesn't like to talk on phones and is apparently looking for a remote job without any luck. She's been unemployed since Thanksgiving. She quit her last job on Black Friday, in fact, and I was on the verge of laying down the law, telling her she either needs to go to school this upcoming semester full-time or get a full-time job or move out with her friends. But now she's come to me and she's 5 months pregnant. She's very angry at me, says it's my fault because I didn't put her on puberty-blocking hormones when she came to me 2 years ago, and she believes I'm in fact trying to feminize her by getting her birth control, the pill. She's been throwing her prescription away. This is where I might be the a-hole. I called her a little idiot. We don't use that sort of language in my house, and I never call people names, especially my own child, but at that moment I could just see red. The hormone thing is a non-issue in my opinion, because this is the first time I ever heard of her wanting hormones. What was I supposed to do, go back in time? As for the birth control, it's also the first time I'm hearing anything about this. There are non-pill options that don't have estrogen. If that was her want, all she had to do was ask, and I would have driven her to the doctor myself. Or she could have taken the car she has and done it. She has her own medical card even. Though to be fair, I don't know how she would have managed the copay without a job. I know for a fact her old high school gave out free condoms like candies because her friends were always giggling over flavoured sample packs and even blew a few of them up like balloons and left them around the house one time. She had all the birth control she could ever want and used none of it. It gets worse. We're way past the date of abortion. Again, I would have helped her if this had been her wish. We lived in an abortion-protected state and can afford it. She's known she was pregnant since about 2 months and has come to think of her baby like a sibling. She expects me to raise it like it was mine, that this is my duty in fact, because she says it's my refusal to accept her non-binary state that led her to being pregnant. So she was going to get a brother or sister, and I was going to have another child. You can say my language grew sterner to versions of get your head out of your ass and congratulations mummy, you have some hard decisions to make, and I said I would absolutely not raise her baby for her. She also refused to say who the father was. Now that I've cooled down, I'm really hoping she has a secret boyfriend. She does have some friends who are born male, but now also don't identify that way. We didn't even get there as I lost my mind when she said she thinks of her own baby as a sibling and wants me to raise it like my own child. She's locked herself in her room, loudly wailing. I feel like crap warmed over. She's been in there for 12 hours, and as she has an attached bathroom, probably won't be coming out until she gets hungry. Considering it's been half a day, I think she has snacks stored. I also don't know where to go from here. Being pregnant sucks and messes with your head, so I'd like to blame that and the fear she must be feeling. But I have the bad feeling I either raised a spoiled brat or someone with an emerging personality disorder. So I need to know from people who aren't emotionally involved, and maybe some people who are more in tune with this whole non-binary thing than I am. What do I do to help, while also making her responsible for her own child? How can I help my daughter accept she must do basically the most feminine thing you can do, give birth and possibly breastfeed, while being sensitive that she's non-binary? Am I just a big a-hole here? Typing all this out, it feels like my daughter is lost in crazy town. I'm still not raising her baby, but at what point do I drag a legal adult to the hospital? Edit, you might disagree with my choices or wording, but I'm reporting people who call this bait. It's not. And edit 2, it's the middle of the night and she has decided to pack some of her clothes and stay with one of her friends, one who I suspect is the baby daddy. Before she left, she told me that she already called the police and let them know that she was leaving of her own free will and was not in danger. Like I was going to report an 18-year-old adult as a runaway or something. It was insulting. I told her she needs to work out details if she wants to adopt with the father, and she was welcome back home when she had a plan in place. It was short because I heard her on the way out. I think she just meant to leave without saying anything. Thank you for your kind comments and advice, Reddit. I'm going to sleep. Oh, yeah, this is way out of my pay grade. I'm interested to see what the comments think on this one. Let's go to them. Not the a-hole. I hate to say this, but I sincerely hope Opie's daughter chooses to give up this baby for adoption because she's a confused hot-ass mess. I don't blame OP for not wanting to step on the crazy train and raise this baby. Another comment says, let's be honest, if OP says yes to raising this child as her own, it will be the first of several. Daughter won't take birth control, so she'll continue to have unprotected sex and get pregnant. She decided a couple years ago that she's non-binary, expected her mother to understand that and know everything about it, and is now rewriting history to blame her mum for her now being pregnant. My head is swimming, and she's not my daughter. There will be more babies. Non-binary here, OP. You are so not the a-hole. I feel sympathy for your kid because they sound like they're so confused, maybe have body dysphoria, and are now facing a life-altering situation with no way out. They must feel so trapped, so they turn on you. It's easier for them to yell at and blame you instead of accepting responsibility. They're looking for a way out. We all keep changing and growing, and your kid is so young, they seem to not know who they are yet, and now they have to face looking after a baby when they know deep down they can't even really take care of themselves. But my God, the thing they did that was really stupid was chucking birth control away. That is actually wild. Your kid needs to learn the difference between gender-enforced stereotypes and actual biology. With biology, it unfortunately doesn't matter what gender you are. The biology doesn't care. It still works the same. They need to learn that and differentiate. Like I said, not the a-hole OP. What a crap situation. I hope it gets better. I really do. Not the a-hole. Your child is in fact a little idiot, with behaviour that would be an absolute nightmare had you not been their parent. Also, birth control isn't a form of feminization, it's a form of responsibility when you're born in a body with a uterus and want to have sex that can result in pregnancy. Opie replies, I wish I had those words when she hit me with that one. I sort of sputtered for a few minutes. Oh man, this is a can of worms within itself. I wish I had better advice, but I feel for you and the position you're stuck in. The only thing I can think of is referring to breastfeeding as chest feeding might make your non-binary daughter accepted more, but there's a whole other level of things you need to get through first. First and foremost, therapy, ASAP for your kid, because she needs to get her head sorted out. Assuming you'll just take this kid and raise it for her is problematic to say the least, and she's got a deadline coming, obviously, so therapy as soon as possible. Also, appointment for pregnancy checkups ASAP. Has she had any? An unmonitored pregnancy can lead to complications. You might also be able to get her a social worker to go through pregnancy checkups, birthing extra. Your kid needs a big sit-down conversation about accountability for your own actions, and about how she might feel like part of your actions led to this. There was also many choices she could have made to prevent this that she chose not to, and at the end of the day, it was her choices that led to this, not yours. Opie replies, "Thanks for this tip, I've written it down. The reason I mentioned she was non-binary is because using breast instead of chest is the exact type of thing to send her into a pissy fit when she's in the wrong mood. I know this may sound like a little thing, but she's always been, well, dramatic. Because it's the internet and things are anonymous, I'll admit that I'm absolutely dreading pregnancy and afterbirth mood swings, especially since it will all involve very womanly things in every intimate way. On top of the sheer stress of a newborn, yes, I'm not looking forward to it all, and I'm already preparing to endure the storms." Our conversation wasn't productive. It was an argument and she's still not out of her room, but I don't think she has had any prenatal care. That will change if I have anything to do with it. Thanks again. Opie comments again with some of her concerns. "Yes, my worry and regret have so many places to go, and a big part of it is for the baby. This has been a bad day." And responding to a comment regarding her child's entitled attitude. "Oh, believe you me, I've been kicking myself up and down on top of everything else. I don't know how she got to this point, but she's there now. I wish I did have that time travel machine she clearly expects me to have." Opie clarifies her overall views on the matter. "I'm on the fence. If she acted at all like she didn't have a gender, I believe that's what non-binary is, then I could take it more seriously. But she dresses as a woman, she puts on makeup, wears dresses during the summer, enjoys feminine things. We watch horse videos on YouTube and squeal over the new foal videos. She's never been a tomboy even. But I was like, okay, this isn't hurting her. I'll let her have this and express herself. Maybe it'll turn into something, maybe it won't." And after the first few weeks, she even dropped changing pronouns every day. Her mentioning being non-binary faded, and then started up hard again when high school ended and she started working retail. I try to be understanding. Retail is hell, and I'd personally only work it again if it was at my last resort, but recently it does seem to be an excuse not to work, and now she has a baby on the way. This may not be the place for it, but I'm just worried she's regressing to a more childlike state. I don't know if she's struggling with being non-binary, or if she's using non-binary as an excuse to shield herself from the world. Ugh, I guess the internet won't know, but I'm just flat out worried. Yeah, and I think Opie has plenty of reasons to be worried here. That's interesting what she mentions about, regressing to a childlike state. You see that a lot with, victim mentality kind of mindsets as well. It's interesting. Let's go to an update. Hi, this is an update to this post. Long story short, my 18-year-old non-binary daughter wanted me to raise her baby, and she told me she thinks the baby is her sibling. We had a blowout, she locked herself in her room for most of the day, and then took off with her friends/her lover. So this happened a few days ago, but I didn't update because I needed to get my head around it. It still doesn't make sense. Daughter finally unblocked me. She and the person who got her pregnant wanted to talk to me at a public place. We chose IHOP. Although I suspected I knew who her lover was, I was disappointed to find out because they'd been a part of my daughter's friend group since high school and was the only one I ever had a problem with and kicked out of my house. They are trans now, but 2 years ago the friend group was watching a movie in the living room, and every time I'd pass by, he was a he then, he would lock eyes with me and make really obnoxious, loud orgasm sounds like that scene in Harry Met Sally. I told him to knock it off and grew sterner when he did it again. Then when I was in the kitchen, he somehow snuck up behind me and was miming jack-off movements with his hand. I turned around and caught him at it. He was still fully clothed, but it was startling and freaky. I kicked him out. So now I'll just call them sperm donor because that's what they are. I'm still calling my daughter and she because I still haven't been told not to by her otherwise, so get off my case on that. Anyway, the IHOP meeting was a crap show. Sperm donor sat with my daughter and went on the attack. Sperm donor's points were, I was poisoning my daughter by making her take birth control. I only helped her get the prescription and would have done everything I could if I knew she didn't want to take the pill. There are other methods. It will take years to fix my daughter after all I did, not giving her hormones even though I had no idea that was what she wanted. She dropped even wanting to change her pronouns after a few weeks. Abortion is a sin and I'm a monster for suggesting it. It's past the date anyway. And I'm further abusing her by not taking care of the baby while she fixes herself. I guess they meant it as a temp situation, which was also new to me. So apparently, even though I'm an abusive monster, a bad mother, and so on, I'm even worse for not taking in their baby. At least no one suggested that I raise it like my daughter's sister anymore. That might have been my daughter's thought on it. Sperm donor did most of the talking while my daughter just sat and glared at me, nodding along. It was kind of a whirlwind. Sperm donor pandered the table a few times, and even the waiter knew not to bother us after drinks, lol. I'm surprised we weren't asked to leave. There was a lot said, mostly by the sperm donor who really seemed to be steering the ship. I asked why sperm donor couldn't take care of the baby, and sperm donor said their parents were even worse than me. I guess my daughter and sperm donor taking care of the child they created is out of the question. I told them that I would not be raising their baby for them, and that adoption is the best bet. They said that if I don't agree to raise it, they'll make sure I'll never see the baby ever. I won't raise their child for them, so that's that, I guess. I feel so many flavors of worried and angry and then worried all over again. I've been around the block and it's never a great sign when the person you're with makes an enemy of your family. That's what sperm donor has done by painting me as an abuser and failed mother who also won't take in their baby. Sounds like sperm donor has cut themselves off from their own family too. So I'm worried my daughter is in a very controlling relationship with someone who convinced her to stop birth control because they think hormones are too feminizing somehow and that she needs to be fixed, but they still want me to raise their baby. I'm angry that my daughter can just hear this crap and nod along like, yeah, that makes total sense. She's not stupid. I think she's love-blinded. I'm sad and worried for the baby. A couple commenters suggested I wanted nothing to do with the baby because I wouldn't agree to raise it as my own. No, in a perfect world, I would want a normal grandmotherly relationship, or at least to know that the child is safe and has been adopted into a loving family. I don't care what my daughter does with her gender or her body as long as she doesn't hurt herself. I want her to be in a happy relationship with someone who values her for who she is. Sperm donor kept using the word fix, which I see as another terrible sign. It's bad all around. My house is empty. It feels like my adult daughter has run off to join up with some weird church or cult thing who tells her that up is down, that not using birth control and not getting an abortion and then expecting others to take care of the child is all A-OK. Oh, and that she's a problem and needs to be fixed. I texted her and said I would be there for her, but sperm donor was still not welcome in the house. I think I'm blocked again. She's a legal adult. I'm not sure what else I can do at this point. In my low points, part of me thinks maybe I should agree to take the baby and then immediately make sure it's adopted into a loving home. But I get the feeling that sperm donor won't make that easy, and right now my daughter does what he says. Also, I'm not sure if that plan is even possible. It sounds like Hollywood. I have an appointment to speak with a counsellor, but the soonest I could get is April. Some of my friends think I should take the baby in either to get them away from the parents or because they think it's my duty, or both. The only silver lining in this was that they both seemed sober. I don't think there's drugs involved. Am I reading this wrong? Am I the a-hole here? I mean, they might as well be on drugs, right? In fact, it might even make adoption a bit easier if they were. Let's go to some more comments. For your safety, I would change the locks and put up a camera. Sperm donor seems unhinged. I'm a firm believer in better safe than sorry. This baby will be used as a pawn in his never-ending psychodrama. If they do not and cannot raise their baby, the best solution is adoption. Otherwise, the father will make your life a living hell, not the a-hole. Opie replies, I couldn't figure out a polite way of saying this, but yes, that is my suspicion if I take in their baby. Sperm donor implied it would be temporary, while earlier my daughter said it would be permanent. I think sperm donor will refuse to sign over paperwork when the time comes, or try to leverage it in some way. Another comment says, "Not the a-hole. Also, it sounds like your daughter is in an abusive relationship with this person. Sorry your daughter has been brainwashed by this crazy person. I would definitely contact this sperm donor's family, and if they seem sane, warn them about how crazy both of them spoke to you." Opie replies, "That is my fear, and not a bad idea to contact sperm donor's parents. This has all happened so fast, I feel like I'm in shock, and I'm very worried." Pretty wild that a trans person is saying abortion is sin. None of this is anything like what you're going to hear from any healthy LGBT community, who are quite careful to make sure not to support people in delusional or antisocial behaviour. Definitely get therapy. Sounds like your kid has some serious mental health problems if they're being influenced by whatever wackos put these ideas into their head. You're going to need support in coping with this madness, not the a-hole by a country mile. You are in no way abusing your kid by refusing to take responsibility for their bad choices. Opie replies, "Thank you, and yes, I don't want to minimise my daughter's role in it, but the hard anti-abortion thing surprised me too. A lot of what they said contradicted itself. It felt like I was sitting across from two people who were in their own wacko bubble. I know it's not an LGBT thing. I wish someone from their community would knock some sense into them, if it's even possible at this point." And Opie leaves a quick update in the comments. "I logged in and received a large amount of requests for an update. Unfortunately, I do not have one. I have not seen or heard from my daughter since the last meeting, and I believe she's changed her phone number. Our community isn't a large one, and I've heard through the grapevine she's staying with the sperm donor in one of the homeless camps out in the woods. As this is a haven for drugs and sex trafficking, this is a further concern. From what I've heard, she is pregnant. Myself and a few friends and family members have driven through the camp area a few times on the lookout for her, but it's very large and there aren't exactly marked roads. Also recently, other people have been shot at while walking their dogs around there or riding ATVs, so every time we go, it's a risk. So that's it. I'm stuck hoping she's safe and under some kind of shelter. There are a lot of plywood houses and broken down RVs out there, and waiting to hear news when she has the baby. Yes, CPS and the local police are aware of my concerns. I'm worried the child will be born addicted to drugs because I don't know anyone who doesn't live out there who isn't a meth head. Thanks for your concern all. I'm unsure what I'll do when the baby is born. I might have to take in the baby after all just to make sure it doesn't live in that camp, and it may make me the a-hole, but I'm not looking forward to the hard work and drama that will come with it." Oh geez, it just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it? Okay, on to a new update. I posted another update in the comments a while back. It's on my account. Basically, my pregnant daughter shut me out of her life completely, and rumour had it she was living in a homeless camp with her weirdo lover out of the woods. It's a huge place, and me and friends searched a few times, but weren't able to find her. It's also dangerous because there aren't laws out there, and the homeless shoot at ATV riders and hikers, and send dogs after people who come too close to what they consider their territory. To be clear, I don't think my daughter was part of that group. The camp is huge and full of meth addicts, sex traffickers and drug labs. Anyway, the full story is on my account, if you care. I did contact sperm donor's parents, and they have all but disowned him after very much the same disturbing behaviour I outlined earlier, only geared towards their younger siblings, so that sucks. Back to the new news. All this shook out a couple of weeks ago, but I hesitated to post because of my own emotions and the fact I know Reddit will be all over my ass for the deep anger, shame and disappointment I have for my daughter. I came home from grocery shopping to find a strange pregnant woman at my door. That woman used to be my daughter, but had changed so much she was like a stranger. She chatters constantly so you can't get a word in. She has several small face tattoos and, forgive me for saying this, looks like she has aged 20 years. She had been living rough. She was angry I locked her out. I changed the locks after she left, and basically expected to move back into her old room with no problem, like it was just another day from back in the winter when she lived here. Of course, I wasn't going to turn her away, so I guess in a way she was right. She was living in the homeless camp with the sperm donor, and I insisted she take a shower because it looked like she hadn't since leaving. She also stank bad. She had no shame about blocking my number or what she put me through by disappearing. All she wanted to talk about was the grand fate that she and sperm donor are building, that they're building a community of new people, and she went on and on and on without mentioning the baby once. I don't know how anyone can stand them, but sperm donor has multiple partners, and my daughter is one of them, and is perfectly happy being his broodmare. The broodmare is my verbiage. Hers is much more royal. Frankly, based on what she overshared, sperm donor seems like a complete sex fiend. Finally, I broke in and asked, and she said she'd been to the doctor regularly. That was a lie, I found out later, and all is well with the baby. At this point, I knew she had to be on drugs. If she was awake, she was talking, and none of what she said had an end or a point. Also, a lot was from Crazy Town. What I got from her was that, again, she and several other ladies, and men somehow, were to carry the next generation of new people. Yes, the men. Yes, biological men. Sperm donor was sort of the middle of the wheel with the spokes, was how she described it. I've met him before, and I'm surprised he was able to get one girlfriend, much less whatever grouping is going on now. Anyway, sometimes she said she wanted to keep the baby, though she wouldn't tell me a plan to take care of and house it. I think she expected to stay with me. And sometimes she wanted to adopt it out, but not for the good of the baby, but to spread the new people. This part is going to upset the internet, but the new people are apparently without gender expectations, and that was why she didn't know the baby's gender yet. Oh yeah, and also some of the wheel, her group, were empathic, and they could communicate their feelings through the other world. As a house guest, she was the absolute worst. It was like she'd gone feral out in the camp, and clean up after herself to the point where she mostly did not even flush the toilet after using it. She ate everything, which was to be expected, but never cleaned up after herself and kept asking, or asking is too mild of a word, she demanded for me to take her out to restaurants. I did a couple of times because I missed her and was trying to make a connection, but then once afterwards I took her to the store to get baby supplies, and she was weirdly detached, sort of picked up the first thing she saw on the shelf, and all the while it was yak 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 about her true family of new people and their grand fate. Anyway, I finally got out of her that she expected the baby in mid-July, which put her outside the time frame she originally gave me. I had it on my calendar. I was obsessed with the possible due date because I didn't know if she was find a baby on my doorstep or what. And yes, she was under the care of a doctor. Both lies. Getting her to focus on one subject was impossible. She would only stop talking long enough to take a breath and only listen long enough to you to stop for your own before she'd launch into a new thing, usually around sperm donor, who she loved but was nowhere in sight and was chilling back at the camp with the rest of his breeding stock, or whatever. Basically, I was waiting for her to come down off whatever high she was on, when she went into full-blown labour. It was a complete crap show. She was having pains, but her water hadn't broken yet. At the hospital, it came out that she had not been to the doctor once for the baby. There are programs in our state that cover pregnancies, so that put her at high risk, so she was admitted immediately. That's when the switch flipped and she became hateful against nurses and doctors. She said the worst things, and they were absolute saints in return. She also had delusions of grandeur and told them she was their queen, and accused them of trying to punish her. It was so wild. I can't even describe the monster she became. So hateful, racist, vicious, and the worst things you can say to people, she said them. She wasn't in hard labour yet, so it wasn't entirely the pain. I pulled one nurse aside and told her where she'd been living, and that I suspected drugs, though I hadn't caught her using yet. They were so professional, and gave her painkillers that helped her mood. Not gonna lie, they doped her up because she was acting wild. Imagine my surprise when her blood work came out clean. I wasn't there for the birth because she didn't want me in the room with her, and heaven help me, I was a little relieved because I was ashamed of her behaviour. But I did talk to a social worker on staff to let them know everything I did. The lady was very nice but couldn't speculate officially on my daughter's mental state. I said she had to be bipolar or manic or something because her behaviour was not normal, but she asked if she had threatened to kill herself or harm the baby, and she hadn't. They can't step in until there's a threat. Miraculously, the child was born at a good weight and healthy, and not addicted. I don't want to give too much info on them because the internet is forever, and one day they may search for their own past. My daughter lucked out big time and had a normal delivery as things went. She didn't give sperm donor's name out as the father, though I did to the social worker. They can't be put on the birth certificate on my word. She up and left her baby that evening without officially checking out, without saying goodbye to me or her newborn. Because the hospital is a safe surrender point, she won't be charged for abandonment. CPS asked if I wanted to take the child, and though it tore me up, I said no. There are a lot of reasons for why. A big one is I don't want to be held hostage to my daughter's whims, and especially sperm donor. I don't want to be on the hook for more children which are likely coming. Also, look at my daughter. I did my best and she still turned out this way. Maybe I shouldn't try again. I know getting a new family is almost the best thing that could have happened for the baby, even with problems with the foster system. It has to be better than the camp. But I feel like dog crap about it even now. I also suspect they'll have a sibling soon as my daughter can arrange it. I know my daughter is not well. I know she's in a cult and probably in danger, and also probably an abuser herself, based on the stories she casually dropped about other members. She is also a selfish liar, and it is luck or the grace of God or what have you that her baby was born healthy. She's rolling the dice on her life and the life of her future children. She's sick and under a sex fiend's control, and now thinks she has magic thought powers, but she has some responsibility in this too. All the rest of the transgender stuff with her lover, and if she is non-binary or not from the past, doesn't matter. She's an adult and is making some bad choices. It's hard for me to type out, but the way she treated the hospital staff was so cruel. Seriously, I had to use a thesaurus to describe it because I can't even describe fully how bad it was. It showed me that whatever else, she thinks other people are below her. It's more than the mania. I'm just there to serve her whenever she sees fit. She knew she would be giving birth soon, so she came home and expected me to take care of her. I did, of course, because she was 9 months pregnant, and the second she didn't have any more need of me or the baby she'd just given birth to, it was easy to take off again. I listened to her for days, and she expressed no feelings of hope for the baby other than a vehicle to spread their movement, no worry about their future life, and no more comments on me raising them as a sibling. She made the choice to leave and go back to sperm donor's harem, or wheel, or whatever. Sick or not, I'm ashamed to have raised someone with these kinds of values. Mentally ill people aren't bad people, but she has gone beyond merely bad choices. I haven't totally written her off, and she may come back to sanity, but since all indications are that I'm blocked again, I'm going to think long and hard about boundaries and possibly moving. I'm worried about one day finding a bunch of culty weirdos on my porch. So that's it. I don't know what to do. It's not like I have the resources to pay someone to deprogram my daughter, and that sounds very Hollywood. I need a realistic goal. It's more than just a cult. She needs a checkup from the neck up, and I don't have the legal standing to do anything. At least the baby is safe. That's the one bright spot. Thoughts are welcome, and forgive me, any realistic suggestions, or just tell me if I'm way off base and I'm the a-hole here. This has been a hell of a year, and such a spiral. A year ago, I had a somewhat of a slacker teenager under my roof. Now, all of this. Yeah, who would have thought from the first post that it would transpire this way? I mean, what a wild story. I'll keep my eyes open for any further updates for that one because, man, I'm invested. But at the end of the day, this is truly just a tragic story. It's clear that whatever the daughter is involved with has got its claws sunk pretty deep into her. Or them, I guess. And like Opie said, and what I think some of the comments were getting mixed up, this wasn't really a non-binary problem. This was a lack of accountability and psychological abuse problem. Anyway, let's read some final comments to wrap this one up. If adoption is the one way to spare the baby from getting sucked into the cult, it will be for the best. This is the most I can say. This is such a heavy thing that Opie is dealing with. A commenter replies to that, "Watching an interview with a man who is a long-time cult deprogramming expert teaches so much the average person simply can't know without experience. One thing he said parents often say is they cannot recognize their child in photos as quite quickly cults sort of replace their real personalities. The effects are so intense they don't have to change physically to be unrecognizable. It happens so quickly with such ferocity, despite the process seeming so almost gentle to the victim. The shock and pain Opie has right now, I'd never wish on anyone." Opie did the best they could in this situation, and I hope she gets help for herself to be okay with it all. As for not taking the baby, I also think that is the right choice. Not because I think she's a bad parent or couldn't love the baby, but having that baby at her house would put her and the baby at risk when the daughter shows up again. I would be scared that the daughter would try to show up one day and take the child. This way, at the very least, the daughter and other new people hopefully never know where that baby ended up. My wife and I watched a little documentary miniseries on twin flames a while back. Pretty sure it was Escaping Twin Flames on Netflix, but I recall there being another one on another streaming platform as well, and don't remember for sure which one we watched. In addition to just being horrified at how folks behave when they fall into a cult, I remember seeing Jeff Iron, one of the leaders, and thinking, that guy? That guy? Also, the "we're ushering in a new universe of enlightened people" really seems to be a trope for cults, and some subset of tech startups, but I repeat myself. I think Opie did their best here in a really, really terrible situation. Responding to a now deleted comment blaming OP for not immediately jumping to mental health issues. As a person with experience with bipolar drug addicts, you never assume mental health without first eliminating the possibility of drugs. A doctor will tell you the same things. They will not make a mental health diagnosis until getting the patient off drugs first. The reason for this is many of the symptoms are the same, and it's riskier to assume no drugs than vice versa. If you assume drugs, you can start with the detox. If you assume it's not drugs, you could end up giving them antipsychotics or something that could interfere with the drugs you assumed weren't in her system. Even if a person has previous history of mental illness, you can't assess the state of their mental health now without first removing the drugs from their system. Symptoms of mania could actually just be symptoms of meth or crack. Once they're off the meth and crack, the doctor could just as easily find that the person is actually depressed, not manic. In this case, the possibility of drugs could not be eliminated given where she was living, and probably refused to take a drug test until the hospital made her. Quote, "I did my best and she still turned out this way. Maybe I shouldn't try again." Those two sentences cut me like the sharpest blade. As a parent, this is my worst fear, to try my absolute best to raise a fully functioning adult and failing on all counts. Someone replies, "A lot of it is just luck of the draw. I've seen successful at life people who had utterly crappy parents, and I know nice parents who did their absolute best and had a kid go off the rails. Two of the nicest people I know, very liberal college professors, sent their kid to a progressive private school, and he went to Times Square and hurt a black guy because he wanted to start a race war. I have two kids, and one is sweet, sensitive and thoughtful, and the other is just mean. Has never told me she loved me ever, just born with a chip on her shoulder. She's been in trouble with the law, would hurt the younger one, like just walk up to him and hit him for no reason. She is estranged from me as an adult, and she was so exhausting that I feel guilty for not feeling bad about it. They both had the same upbringing, so I know it's not all me." Next update, Opie comes home after a long shift to find her window broken and the homeless cult moved into her house. Well, at least the baby seems mostly okay, and Opie was smart enough to not take custody. Might not get another update to this, and that's okay. Would get much worse before it gets better. It's interesting to see indoctrination in real time with these posts. I remember the first one and thinking that this would be a story about gender identity while being pregnant, and the struggle that the mind must go through with those conflicting emotions and physicality. But nope, full cult insanity. I feel so bad for OP, her child, and her grandchild. I hope Opie moves away. Staying behind is just an invitation to more craziness. The daughter is either going to wake up from this crazy or get sucked down into it and end up dead. Maybe no longer having her mother as a safety net will be the catalyst to wake her up. In either case, Opie does not deserve to be dragged down with her daughter. Agree. What do you guys think about that one? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, we're going to leave that one there. That's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.